Hello, and welcome to the most must-see detective show. Detective Catch here, your very own private investigator. Now let me paint you a picture of a world different from the one you know. A world where the government is not what it seems, where powerful secret societies pull the strings from behind the scenes, and where things worse than you can imagine are still at play. A world where the truth is hidden in plain sight, and only those with the courage to seek it out will ever truly understand the forces that shape our reality. As I delve deeper into this twisted world of horror, I uncover shocking truths that the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. But be warned, as you delve deeper into this sinister world, you may find that the truth is more horrifying than you could have ever imagined. Most Americans would be surprised to learn that the president, who has been portrayed by Washington pundits as a reluctant warrior, was actually a hawk. Unfortunately, President Obama's successful use of diplomacy over hostility is limited to the Iran nuclear deal, a Herculean achievement, and the establishment of diplomatic relations with Cuba. While candidate Obama campaigned on ending George W. Bush's wars, he leaves office having been at war for the longest period of time in U.S. history. He is also the only president to have served 2 full terms while the country was at war. While President Obama reduced the number of U.S. troops fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, he dramatically increased air wars and the use of special operations forces around the world. In 2016, U.S. special operators could be found in 70% of the world's nations, 138 countries, a 130% increase since the Bush administration. Looking back on President Obama's legacy, Mika Zenko of the Council on Foreign Relations tallied up the Defense Department's data on airstrikes and made a startling discovery. The Obama administration dropped at least 26,171 bombs in 2016. This means that the U.S. military dropped 72 bombs on combatants or civilians overseas every day last year, or 3 bombs every hour, 24 hours a day. While the majority of these airstrikes were carried out in Syria and Iraq, U.S. bombs were also dropped on people in Afghanistan, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, and Pakistan. That's 7 Muslim-majority countries. Drone strikes are one bombing technique advocated by President Obama. As drone warrior-in-chief, he expanded the use of drones beyond Afghanistan and Iraq's declared battlefields, primarily to Pakistan and Yemen. Obama authorized more drone strikes than George W. Bush, and he automatically labeled all males of military age in these areas as combatants, making them fair game for remote-controlled killing. According to a media-derived tally kept by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, 371 drone strikes in tribal Pakistan have killed between 256 and 633 civilians since Obama took office. All non-governmental efforts to track the strikes recognize their limitations. Official leaks provide open-source reporting on each classified strike, which incentivizes assuming those killed are militants until proven otherwise. Active war zones prevent and discourage consistent, independent investigations into each drone strike by the press and non-governmental organizations. As a result, little evidence exists to definitively refute the official claim that drones kill single digits of civilians each year, even as they fought the CIA on other issues. The congressional committees tasked with overseeing the CIA have assisted it in blocking the transparency Obama promised. A requirement for public disclosure of drone casualties was removed from an intelligence operations bill by the chairwoman of the Senate Intelligence Committee in 2014. President Obama has claimed that his overseas military adventures are legal under congressional authorizations for the use of military force passed in 2001 and 2003 to pursue al-Qaeda. However, today's conflicts have little to do with those who attacked the United States on September 11, 2001. The twisted legal architecture that the Obama administration built to justify its interventions, particularly extrajudicial drone killings with no geographic restrictions, will now be handed over to Donald Trump's erratic hands. What has the administration accomplished after 8 years of fighting on multiple fronts? Terrorism has spread, no wars have been won, and the Middle East is more divided and chaotic than when candidate Barack Obama declared his opposition to the Iraq invasion. While the shift from ground troops to airstrikes and special forces has saved American lives, untold numbers of foreign lives have been lost. We have no idea how many civilians have been killed in the massive bombings in Iraq and Syria area, where the U.S. military frequently pursues ISIS in urban areas. We only hear about civilian killings in Afghanistan on rare occasions, such as the tragic bombing of the Doctors Without Borders hospital in Kunduz, which killed 42 people and injured 37 more. When pressed to release information about civilian deaths in drone strikes, the U.S. government claimed in July 2016 that it had killed no more than 116 civilians in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, and Libya between 2009 and 2015. Journalists and human rights activists said the figures were ridiculously low and unverifiable because no names, dates, locations, or other details were released. According to the Bureau of Investigative Journalism in London, which has been tracking drone strikes for years, the true figure is 6 times higher. Given that drones have only accounted for a small portion of munitions dropped in the last 8 years, the number of civilians killed by Obama's bombs could be in the thousands. But we don't know for sure because the administration and the mainstream media have remained largely silent on the civilian toll of the administration's failed interventions. I interrupted President Obama's foreign policy speech at the National Defense University in May 2013. I just returned from visiting the families of innocent people killed by U.S. drone strikes in Yemen and Pakistan, including the Remen children, who witnessed their grandmother being blown to pieces while picking okra in the field. I asked President Obama to apologize on behalf of grieving families whose losses have never been acknowledged by the U.S. government. As I was being dragged out, President Obama said, "That woman's voice is worth listening to." Unfortunately, he never did. Fahim Qureshi was one of the first victims of Obama's tyranny. Fahim Qureshi's uncles sat in their family's lounge for male guests, chatting, cracking jokes, and sipping tea with their neighbors. Qureshi, almost 14, stood nearby, bored and restless, wondering when he could go to the nearby playground to play badminton and cricket with the other Iraqi village kids. It had been a long day Friday prayers, a food shopping errand at his mother's request, and hosting, but it had also been a happy occasion, with people stopping by to welcome an uncle back to North Waziristan in tribal Pakistan from a business trip to the United Arab Emirates. He then heard the sound of a plane taking off. The missile punched a hole through the lounge about 2 seconds later. Qureshi recalls feeling as if his body was on fire. He ran outside, wanting to splash water on his face, but his first priority was to get away. The boy was blind. This was the unintended civilian casualty of Barack Obama's first drone strike on January 23, 2009, the start of a counter-terrorism strategy that would define Obama's presidency in much of the Muslim world. It was his 3rd day as president. According to reports, the strikes did not hit the Taliban target that Obama and the CIA were looking for. Instead, they permanently altered Qureshi's life. Qureshi was in and out of hospitals for nearly 40 days, all of which he spent in darkness. His stomach had been punctured by shrapnel. Lacerations covered a large portion of his upper body. Doctors performed surgery on his entire left side, which had been burned, and used laser surgery to repair his right eye. They were unable to save his left arm. While he was recovering, his family kept the worst from him. Muhammad Khalil and Mansour Remen, 2 of Qureshi's uncles, were both killed. His cousin Azizer Remen Qureshi, 21, was also preparing to leave the family's North Waziristan home for work in the UAE. Qureshi's cousins were fatherless in 14 cases. Qureshi, who was barely a teenager, was thrust into the role of the family's elder male, tasked with providing for his mother, brothers, and sisters. When he was a promising student pursuing a career in chemistry, his first priority was to make a living. The family was never able to afford to repair the guest lounge. Obama, who is nearing the end of his presidency, wants to be remembered as a peacemaker. In his own words, as he stated in his final State of the Union address earlier this month, he is the man who peacefully denuclearized Iran, opened Cuba and ended the last vestige of the Cold War, and replaced the dumb wars he campaigned against with the prudent, precise counter-terrorism of drone strikes. All I know about Obama is what he has done to me and the people of Waziristan, and that is an act of tyranny, Qureshi says. If there is a list of tyrants in the world, Obama's drone program will put him on it. 7 years after the strike, Qureshi has yet to receive even an acknowledgement from the US that it occurred. The CIA declined to comment for this article, referring all questions to the White House. Although Obama expressed profound regret for a 2015 drone strike on the the Afghanistan-Pakistan border that killed 2 Western hostages. The White House would not comment on specific cases. According to Ned Price, the National Security Council spokesman, Qureshi stated that he does not believe ordinary Americans are evil or unjust, and he advises them not to believe what their government says about drone strikes in Pakistan. I am the living embodiment of what drones are, Qureshi explained. They have affected Waziristan as they have affected my personal life. I had all of these hopes and potential, and now I'm doing nothing and don't know what the future holds for me. And that concludes today's episode, but like always remember that we must unite as a community while the world around us continues to twist and corrupt. In the face of uncertainty, we must stand together in support of one another. You are helping our channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video, as well as promoting awareness and community cohesion. Only together can we overcome the darkness and meet any obstacle that arises. As a result, I kindly request that you take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your loved ones. Let's unite and grow stronger collectively. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay vigilant.